Is that person that debases our values, our cultural values, those things that make Nigerians proud, make us stand out locally and internationally? Is it one person? Is it one community? Is it a village? Is it a state? Or is it all of us who at different times have neglected to do one or two things right? And people were watching and perhaps we did not pay attention and they began to imbibe some wrong habits to the extent that over a period of time, our social values have been debased. Indeed, everyone who's watching us today, don't forget our program is interactive. We want to get your ideas, we want to get your experiences. And we take off with Francis's research. He's talking about the debasement, of course, of our values in Nigeria, and this time from several other angles, especially talking about age falsification and lots more.
The core value of the Nigerian society then was discipline, honesty, hard work, accountability, loyalty, and respect for the elderly. Unfortunately today, Nigeria's debased moral values are exemplified in cheating, falsification of age, overdependence on foreign goods, and quest for materialism.
There are a lot of factors that could be held as responsible for the erosion in values in our country. But I think all of them boil down to one factor. And that factor is inordinate desire for material things.
Like in Igbo land, you see, they said people drink all those stuff and they misbehave. And then you have people who have returned from Malaysia. There is a lot of young people who return from Malaysia. Is almost many villages in the east. People are building all sorts of houses. Children who doesn't have a verifiable source of income. They have built a lot of mansions. How would they respect a man who retired as a headmaster or a principal and is still living in a bacha? So when the man talks, they look down on him.
Many people on social media use photographs and posts to portray their lives in a positive light. They feel competitive and want to be seen as having a happy relationship, a thriving career, gifted children, adventurous hobbies, or the world's cutest baby. However, this can leave a false impression with their friends and followers, which leaves more people feeling that they have to try to live up to the lives they falsely believe others are living.
A lot of falsehood is peddled through the social media. People tend to portray lifestyles that are not real. If you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, and you see some of the things that trend even on Twitter. Because people think that nobody will cross-check to verify, you find people painting a very rosy picture for themselves. You find young people find a car somewhere, exotic car that is parked, they go there and take a picture and make it look as if it's their own car. They look for mansions, that are situated somewhere, and they go there and the next thing you see is they bring out their phones and they start doing selfies and taking pictures and portraying themselves as living in a life of splendor. So innocent people who look at this, whose minds are not interrogative, look at this and think that, oh, this is the ideal. And because there's no description of how a person went through before he got to this position of affluence that is being portrayed, then people don't see that, okay, this can only happen through hard work.
You can easily evaluate a system by simply looking at who and what it rewards. What we reward and celebrate says a lot about our value. A nation can be evaluated by the quality of its reward system.
People are packed in a house, it's a live kind of show, a reality show, and they do all sorts of things there, portray all sorts of debased values, in that space. And then at the end of the day, a winner emerges. and he's giving very, very heart-wrenching millions of naira as reward. And then the next thing you know is that he's a celebrity. You know, corporate organizations are seeking such a person to endorse their products, you know, at a fee, of course. Whereas somebody who perhaps graduated with a first-class degree will not have the same privileges. Somebody who has been responsible for some kind of innovation, you know, which is putting Nigeria out there and promoting us as a country of very serious-minded people who are creative, will not enjoy the same privileges. You will not find corporate organizations seeking such people to endorse their products.
So society has not really been rewarding good conduct. I was watching the news last night when the National Assembly, the House of Reps, was saying that people who made first class should automatically get a job. You know, it's a morale booster for those who make first class or who will make first class, because when you make first class in the university, you come out, you don't have a job, and somebody who had a top class or had a pass gets a job in CBN or NMPC, how will you feel? You feel it wasn't worth it after all. So that is the thing. So we should recognize those who do good and always make sure that they get the dividends of doing good.
Some people live fake lives because their concept of self-esteem or value system has been defined and influenced by the society. They strive to meet societal expectations against all odds. They want social acceptance and validation regardless of their realities.
Nigerians were very emotional people, but we're not emotional in the right way. You know, if you find that somebody is sick, perhaps even sick to the point of death, relations will not come around. People will not bring money to say, look, let us save this person's life. Everybody will be running away and thinking someone else should carry the responsibility and not them. Even people who are privileged in terms of having more money than others within a family or among friends of such a person, then the moment that person dies, you see we become very emotional. We begin to remember everything good that the person had ever done. We begin to lament in regret.
There are many people living in Abuja, they don't have a job, and they have managed to get themselves into social groups of big people. You want to impress them, you will go and borrow money, you go and take a loan, you go and do all sorts of funny things to raise money and host people. Then after that, what happens? You will be in penury, you will be in absolute deprivation, trying to refill. That is not worth it. People shouldn't be doing that. Cut your coat according to your size.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on the debasement of our moral values. How did we get here? Weekend Deal.
Francis is telling us about looking inwards into our reward system. If people who do good, who exhibit positive traits of integrity, honesty, loyalty, trust, wisdom, longevity in work, and delivery, they should be rewarded publicly so that all Nigerians can see and hopefully emulate the qualities of that person. Well, Ayuba has been working, and his research this time is based on stealing in the name of God. Ayuba, this is intriguing. Tell us more.
Despite the earnest fight against corruption and the general misappropriation of public resources, dishonest public servants continue to find devious ways to amass these funds. And what is worse is that afterwards, these same people use out of these stolen resources to donate to their places of worship and other related charity work, almost turning it into a competition of who has contributed the most to their mosque or church.
If you look at the scripture, there are two very significant places where giving is spoken about. One is when Jesus goes to the temple and two people come to give, a very rich man and a widow. The rich man was noticed by the disciples. The widow was noticed by Jesus. You need to note that both of them and all of them were in the same temple, but they noticed the rich man because he gave out of his wealth. Jesus noticed this widow because she gave out of her desire and knowledge and love for God. In Matthew chapter 6, I believe it is, where Jesus talks about giving and not letting your right hand know what your left hand is doing. You will notice something he said in that passage. He says that when you give and people see, they praise you, you have received your reward already. But when you give in secret, your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. That's instructive, because whose praise do you want? Whose praise are you after is the question. We are happier with the applause of men and forget that the applause of men ends here, but the applause of heaven is for all of eternity.
Others, who give generously to their places of worship, seem to do so in a desperate attempt to appease their Creator and avoid divine retribution.
All of us should know any position we hold is a trust before Almighty Allah. Whether you are Muslim or not Muslim, it is a trust. And God will ask you, how did you man that trust? That is number one. Number two, if you are in a position, you use your position to cheat, to defraud. The Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of Qiyamah, you will not even have the taste of paradise, talk less of you entering it. Then thirdly, anything that you steal that does not belong to you, you will account for it on the day of Qiyamah. No matter what you do, you cannot say you are stealing money and you are not paying zakat. In Islam, you can't even pay zakat from a stolen money. So the issue of that does not even occur at all, because God will not accept it. Somebody asked a big scholar during the time of the prophet that if you steal money and you now go and build mosque, you help people with it, say, what is God's judgment? He said the judgment of God is when your wife is doing prostitution, and from that prostitution she got money, she now use that money to prepare food and give you, and you know she's prostituting before she get that money. He said your feeling in eating that food, that is the feeling of God when you steal money to go and do things for God.
So the question every giver should ask is, whose applause are you after? That of men or that of eternity? Now, why we have a problem in answering that question is because our perception of God itself has even been reduced. So we see God as a transactional person. We give, we receive, we give, no. God is not in a transaction with us. God is in a relationship with us, a father and a child relationship.
Clearly, it is not about what is given, or how much is given for that matter, but the source and, of course, the sentiments behind it, which boils down to two simple things: a pure heart and clean hands.
Thank you, Ayuba, for that package. You can still and go give that money in the house of God. You can do negative things, and when you make illicit money from that habit or that business or that enterprise, you go and give the money in the house of God. We're being reminded it won't all go well. You're watching Weekend Deal. Not to forget, our program is interactive. We want to hear about your ideas and your experiences. And we'll be talking on the program today with the Special Assistant to the President and the National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program and the Grand Mufti of Adamawa Emirates, Dr. Umar Bender. Nice to have you join us this morning.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure always to be here.
Great. But first up now, let's see what IJ is bringing forth. Talking about the Code of Conduct Bureau. Tell us more, Ijoma.
The Nigerian 1999 Constitution seeks to prevent corruption and abuse of office through its provisions on the declaration of assets by civil servants and public office holders.
The very essence of the law is that, yes, you are occupying a public office. Now, tell us what you have before coming into the office. And after leaving the office, let's see what you have. As beautiful as the intendment of this law is, as good as the provisions of the law are towards curbing this, unfortunately, Nigerians or human beings will always be who we are, to find a way of cutting corners to bypass the necessary provision of the law.
With reference to provisions of the law, public officers and civil servants are to declare assets and liabilities they actually owned at the material time of filling the form, including all properties and assets acquired within and outside of Nigeria. However, civil servants and public office holders, to some extent, do not comply with the law.
These things were declared to mean: one, your emolument as a public servant, your salary and other allowances put together. Then two, assets, which includes buildings, motor vehicles, machineries, including bank accounts, either foreign or Nigeria, domicile in Nigeria. The property belonging to your children and spouses who are not public officers.
This is a prototype of an asset declaration form. Here, you can see that this officer declared almost nothing. But does this reflect the truth, and how can it be verified?
And who is to make the verification? It should be the duty of the Bureau. I am not holding the brief of the Bureau, but how many staffs are there in the Bureau that will be able to do this? Should the Bureau not deem it wise to say, okay, we are making provision for this allowance in our budgetary allocation, and the justification is this: our staffs will not be able to carry out this duty exhaustively. We will need external hands, and some people will be contracted. The forensic audit firm will be there to do it.
Sometimes, some of these declarations are done in view of the wealth that will be acquired in the future and do not reflect honesty, thereby defeating the spirit and the intent of the law on asset declaration.
We have seen instances where public officers on assumption of office will find a way of making a bogus declaration. I will occupy this office for the next 4 years, and XYZ votes will amount to this. Let it be that I own property A in Banana Island, I own property A in Trans Amadi, and so forth. By the time I'm done from office, whatever is illegally acquired from the office will be used to purchase those property. Whether there is much of it or not, nobody will go and verify. So where there is no verification in this case is key, is paramount to determining the honest intention with which these declarations were made. And it is up to the prosecutors to do their duty diligently before the tribunal, and for the tribunal to do justice to it. Perhaps it will send signals to prospective Nigerians that will hold public office.
However, for the law to be fully enforced, some lapses should be reviewed.
Under the Freedom of Information Act, anybody suspecting a foul play, or that there have been an under-declaration or a bogus declaration by any public officer, is at liberty to approach the Bureau and demand for this information. Where the demand is made and the information were not released by the Bureau, it gives room for a course of action. But the question now is, with the existence of this, how many Nigerians, either as individuals or as corporate entities or as group of individuals that are working towards fighting corruption or anything, have approached the Bureau demanding for the release of such documents?
There is no gainsaying that if Nigerian civil servants and public office holders' assets are made public, it will go a long way to deter people from greed and amassing wealth, as well as curb corruption in public offices.
Thank you, Ijoma. We want to tell Nigerians the right way of doing things, in case some of us have forgotten or in case we learned it wrongly. That is saying, learn what is right, unlearn what is not working for individual and country, and pick up habits that will augur well for individual, community, and country. Dr. Umar Bindi, I already made the introduction. Let's hit the ground running. Is this a timely discussion?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me and also putting on the big picture this very, very critical subject for our country. You see, we have a great country in the sense that we are very cosmopolitan, if you know what I mean. We have many tribes, and these differences has a lot of things that is good. When you understand each other, you know how to partner well, you know how to build networks well for progress. This country, even climatically, God literally designed it for progress. From the desert, where you have sand, from which silica is obtained to make glass, right? And people think of it negatively, or it's dry, there's no water, but silica is a global raw material. Down to the swamps and rainforests in the south, everything on earth requires this variation to grow. So you can grow anything in this country. So again, it's designed actually for prosperity and progress. So, and so on and so forth. But you see, when you measure everything you want to do morally, politically, economically, or technically, look at the end point. If you don't see the progress, if majority of your people are not happy, then something is wrong. And our country has this measure that we call poverty incidence. Poverty incidence is a measure of unhappiness, if you know what I mean. And we're in the region of between 40 and 50. Meaning, if you take all Nigerians into a keg and shake that keg and pull 100 people out of that keg, chances are that 50 are not happy, 50 are not eating well, 50 are not drinking clean water, 50 don't have access to education, have no skills, have no jobs. This is not good. And therefore, when you look at the inputs, this is as an engineering thing, if you can, the inputs, the weather, the climate, the people, the possibilities, and then the output, which is this poverty or lack of prosperity, you know the processing system need debasing, need rejigging, need to be re-engineered. And that is a critical subject matter for our country at this time, in my opinion.
Very critical indeed. Some would say, very brilliant delivery so far from you this morning. We're already stating the obvious. Many people suffer a lack of some kind. Even those who are privileged, for some reason, there's some habits they've imbibed, and they're inculcating in others by association that it's not working well, or we don't have the best impact in the long run for our country. Now, this is where we find ourselves now. It is our hope that there's an opportunity, now that we're discussing it, to begin to do things the right way. The fact that there's a lack in some areas is that justification for the high incidences of debased moral values in many. It's not even just with the young people, with people who some would say ought to know better. We don't practice what we preach.
You're right. I think
being truthful, being honest.
Yes, I think you are right. And I normally, on this subject matters, I slice it into four chambers.
Please go ahead.
And the first chamber is the political chamber, not party, PDP, APC, campaign, no. Politics is about the dynamics, human dynamics, to produce leaders that have philosophies for progress. So, and in that process, you try as much as possible to prepare yourself, meaning I am prepared to be fair, to be open, not to lie, to work very hard, and to be result-oriented. Okay. Secondly, you now also present yourself as a very good planner for progress. I know what I have, I know where my destination will be, and I know what to do to be able to get there. We must be able to re-evaluate these chambers because we have a great country and it has a potential. But a tree is not timber. You have to cut it properly, you have to process it properly, and then it shines and make a table.
We're talking about potential at 61 years. 61-year-old man, woman is a grandmother, a grandfather. But let me take this message very quickly. From Akinola Ololade in Ilorin, Kwara State. He said collapse of the value system is one of the major factors that is responsible for the current societal problems that we are facing. The solution for this is to go back to the basis. I think he meant basics. That is those values that were entrenched at our time of independence. The 70s children know of it, the 80s children know of it, some of the 90s children know of it. There's something that was brought to the fore again today with our first package by Francis Obey. He talked about the reward system. He talked about young people coming to the village to build mansions, and then they will see a former maybe commissioner, minister, a former highly esteemed public servant. He called it living in an abacha. I take it to mean a small house, nothing compared to what they have achieved in their short life. Now, how then will they regard such a person? There's no need. But the values that we were taught growing up, irrespective of who you think you are or what you think you have, age is a factor that must beget respect.
Yes.
And they say also because that elderly man was not well rewarded in terms of the fact that we now equate success with wealth. So he came to the village, he's really able to stay in an abacha. And that makes young people unable to respect him because they respect only money, wealth, affluence.
Well, you see, it's unfortunate. There are many aspects that we have to rejig and review, and this is one of them. But let me express one model for you. A modern chap or a gentleman who God gave an opportunity through our system, he became a graduate and he got employed and he's now in quote a big man. The first thing he does when his child is born is to try to overlook, take care of the child. So pamper the child, then the child go to preschool. You know, even when the child is crawling, it's in an environment where somebody is telling the child, and he checks all the time. Then he goes to nursery. He is there with the child in nursery. Before the child finishes the nursery, he has already decided which primary school that child will go to. So the nursery to the primary school. By the time he's there carrying the child with the bag and patting the child at the and so on, by the time the child finishes primary school, he has already decided which secondary school. By the time the child finishes secondary, he's decided which university. By the time the child finishes university, he has decided where the child will do NYSC. By the time the child finishes NYSC, he is now carrying the CV looking for the job for the child. Tell me what training has this child got? Nothing. So now, and these are in the majority. The youth are the block. This is what they see. The poor ones, the poverty just continues. The ones that are capable, supported by the system, the same channel. And when they mix, surprisingly, Pakos like me will end up as national coordinator. Those Ajebotas will now come with CV to say, Dr. Bindi, we are looking for a job. Now tell me, how does it gel? During our time, there were no private primary schools, no private secondary schools. I went to University of Maiduguri. In fact, my mates were the Otubasis and the Enos and so on and so forth. I was the only person from Yola in my class. You cannot believe it at my time. So we were we grew up in a cosmopolitan system. We knew Kegites, even though religiously it does not agree, but you knew it, you know. Now, as we speak, if I take my telephone and call Dr. Noble, who was the MD of one big company, he will say, oh, stupid man, how you dare, and so on and so forth. That is gradually eroding. Yes, eroding. Now schools are very local, they are very tribal, so to say. They share the same cultures and everything, and it is very difficult for Nigeria to unleash itself with that model. So it's true that when things have gone commercial or economic or monetary, it's sad, but it has to be debased.
Yes.
That is the secret.
And we got ourselves in here. It's up to us to begin to find a way to triumph. But we'll continue our conversation. We go to Ibadan now, where there's much talk about pressure that society places on public servants. Ibadan, tell us.
The practice of good governance is ideally based on and guided by the existence of a sound democratic constitution that enables government to manage the affairs of the state effectively while empowering the citizenry to participate in governance and hold the government accountable. Public servants in this regard play significant roles for the successful achievement of good governance. One of the foremost responsibilities of public servants is the attainment of governance as it affects the welfare of citizens and also account for the peace of socio-economic development of the country. Public servants who believe in a call to service are more likely to behave efficiently. However, unending societal pressure on these public servants are said to be responsible for acts of mismanaging and misrepresenting the public especially in the area of public funds, amongst others.
There's so much societal pressure on lawmakers for people to want to get, it's majorly personal gains. Nobody really tells you about the major problems in their communities anymore. A lot of people are under pressure because of the current economic situation of the country and then the world at large. So people are under pressure and then they keep disturbing and disturbing and disturbing. So you have to look for ways to satisfy them.
You know, as a council chairman, you must prepare ahead of all these things because you came out from these people, and that's your immediate environment will give them that freedom to, because these people can come and meet you at any point in time with different requests.
It is argued that the society places high premium on wealth than integrity and transparency, which many attributed to reasons for public servants being corrupt. If the public servants are corrupt, is the society not equally culpable?
Public servant who is elected, who is an elected person, you can now hold the society that produces him or her responsible in that manner. But if it's an appointed person, are you with me now? Somebody who was just appointed, it's not, the society is not seriously responsible for getting that kind of person into office. So you can, whatever conduct that person puts up later, you can hardly blame the society, because it is not the society, it is not the public that put him there. It is the man in charge, maybe the governor or the president or whoever.
Being a public servant, you have an option. The integrity is there. If you want to maintain that integrity, you don't need to be corrupt. But if the society is corrupt, if the civil servants are corrupt, definitely it will affect the chairman, because the chairman cannot do it alone. If the chairman is corrupt, why the society and the civil servant are not corrupt, they will change the chairman. They will tell him the right thing to do.
But it is the society that really influence the public office holder in the act of corruption, because they've already set their mind that when so person was there as the chairman of the local government or as the honorable member of the house, as this, he was able to acquire so mansion, so fleet of cars, so this. So as a result of that, majority of the people have a kind of mindset that whenever I get there too, I'm going to do the same thing, which ought not to be.
Many people, in the name of being responsible to the society, live extravagant life, thereby showing off their wealth to the admiration of the vulnerable poor masses. How does this impact on the society?
When we were growing up, our parents owned houses, they owned cars. Rarely do you find them show off any of these things. But this our current generation, maybe because of our exposure to international communities, because of our exposures to social media and all of these vices, it has created a lot of challenges for us. So for me, a lot of people live fake life on social media. Some people are on social, they don't even own a car. Go and stand in front of somebody's Range Rover, use your legs to block the number, and then snap like you just bought a brand new Range Rover. Like I said, we need to start to reorientate ourselves to get it right. Nigeria can be a great country. However, it starts from you and I.
It is opined that effective public servants must have an enduring sense of duty that compels them to go extra mile and behave with integrity when faced with challenging situations.
Thank you, NTA Ibadan. In spite of the debilitating circumstances you find yourself, we are being reminded today that we need to maintain a high level of integrity at all times. What some of my sisters or brothers may ask me, at what point was integrity able to purchase rice, gari, yam? Now let's link that to reward system. Perhaps they're asking that because they cannot see any moral examples where people who have showcased these values that we want to celebrate today, they've not seen the outcome in terms of people doing well, being content nowadays, it's amazing that in some cases, it's those people who have exhibited these values we want to bring to the fore who are now going around soliciting, help me with fees, help me with this and all that. Tell us more.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, when you face this problem this way, you get lost in the quagmire. It's too big for Nigeria. But if you cut a slice, a lot of people think civil servants are corrupt because that is the engine of implementing government policies using government money. Now, in those days, if you remember or if you read about it, you'll find that the civil service is literally the major target for most people when they go to school. They want to participate. They want to become directors and deputy directors. And the civil service had, like you said, the rewarding system. An assistant director has a car, and then you have a house, a 3-bedroom house, and people respect you. My uncle is director. My uncle is deputy director. So. And your salary is manageable. Your children go to public school, If there is no private school then, And you too, you are a product of a public university and so on and so forth. So gradually, somewhere maybe people attribute it to the breakdown of our democratic system with the military injection. Everything got distorted, became the Udoji time, money got injected into the system unrealistically, and people started making money. And I think that we missed it. If you go on industry, I am telling you, there was a point when Nigeria nearly became industrialized. We were manufacturing cars. We were, our agriculture, our cocoa was good, our oil palm was good, our groundnuts were good. And even regionally, you can see how goat shared cocoa in the west, oil palm in the east and the south, and then groundnut. We were working, people were working, and you can see people carrying bags and working very hard in the field. And the reward, what they get, was not like I must have a car or a big building. They just go back to their houses and continue again. When you have 200 conventional universities, the question is, what kind of young people are you producing? You don't find 60-year-old, 50-year-old in university still. They're still 20, 25, maybe 30. So for me, all these schools, or universities, particularly universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, must debase or transform to become institutions where creativity, where entrepreneurship, where morality, networking becomes the subject matter, not just a school to get a certificate. Now it's a school. There are even children who will be here in Abuja and somebody is sitting exam for them in Obomosho or in Maiduguri.
And when they graduate, they say you have fulfilled all the qualities needed for character and learning.
Exactly, but that piece of paper is now the standard. So these schools must transform to become institutions for good experimentation, institutions where groups are working together. Okay. When you have that, you will now start having young people who have morality because they were taught in university to be fair to each other, to help each other, to work with each other, right? And they would learn to be able to utilize their local environment for progress. Don't leave University of Ibadan to be 98% teachers and students, all Yoruba. No. Don't leave University of Nsukka to be 98% all Igbo. Don't leave ABU to be all Hausa speaking. There must be a way to say that like we used to be before. You are a Hausa chap, you are in Nsukka, before you finish your degree, you know how to speak Igbo, you know how to speak Yoruba. Okay. This reform has to happen so that we break the barrier and then produce young people who are thinking positively for this country.
Fantastic, Dr. Binde. Fantastic. Let me tell you this quickly. Someone sent me a message. They said, good morning. Please, I want to know why good things will be discussed on television stations and radio, such as we're doing today, and hardly anyone follows it up. But we know we're not wasting time talking, are we? Good one. Let me ask you, before I even take more messages, are you of the opinion, because of the way you have partnered with public servants over time, are you of the opinion that public servants are corrupt?
Actually...
What is your thought?
Actually, no, because I was one. And you can decide to be bad anywhere you are. Corruption in Nigeria is still like stealing money. But money is in banks, right? How do you steal money? You are a civil servant from a bank that is commercial. So somehow there's partnership. Are you with me? But a public servant normally gets blamed because he is the anchor of the whole thing. Yes, I will not sit here and say there are no bad things happening in the public service. There are very terrible people who can package reports on things that have not been done and say they have been done, and money will go down the drain. Yes, people who will budget and spend the money totally unrealistically. There are people who will implement things totally out of the budget when the budget is low. Yeah?
That is not all.
That is not
that
all.
happens in the public service.
Yes, well, there is not all. There are very good ones too. People who work very hard. People who are contented with what they get. People who will go with smiles. Particularly women in civil service. They are very good. But men too, you know. But the good, the bad, and the ugly can all be in one system. But it's not just public service. In the private sector too, there are demons.
Okay, Dr. Umar Binde, always a delight to have a chat with you on any topic that concerns us as a people and as a country. I want to say a big thank you to you, Special Assistant to the President and the National Coordinator, National Social Investment Programs, as well as the Grand Mufti Adamawa Emirates. Thank you for coming to enlighten us. Now we go to NTA Aba. It is challenging when you lose somebody and you want to celebrate them in the best way so that everyone will know that you love this person and were very important in your life. But should you go overboard? Should you borrow money? Should you inconvenience friends and family? NTA Aba, you did your research. Tell us what you found.
Death, according to Wikipedia, refers to the permanent termination of life-sustaining processes in an organism. When life has therefore come to an end, the next thing is to bury the dead. What then does the living owe the dead?
The only thing the living owes the dead is to accord him the honor of making sure that the dead is lowered to the Mother Earth.
The respect we have for the dead is to make sure that the dust return to the dust. That is by giving them burial. Not what we may call a befitting burial, but to make sure that that person did not decay on the surface of the earth.
I give it to our Muslim friends who, when somebody dies, they don't waste time, they commit that person to the Mother Earth.
However, there are things we do, especially in Igbo land, in the name of giving the dead a befitting burial that suggests that we care more for the dead than the living.
You have celebrity singers. I'm not going to call any name. You invite them, pay them good sums of money that you have not saved over time. You buy expensive uniforms that may run into millions. You cook food that at the end of the day is wasted.
The kind of casket you see, you'll be surprised to hear that some caskets cost up to millions, 2-3 millions. It was one burial I attended. I said, by my own estimation, I said this burial wouldn't have taken anything less than 25 million. When you see things that happened there, the decoration of the venue alone, the kind of, it was like an imported house, segmented differently, where men of class 1 will stay, men of class 2 will stay, men of class 3, and so on and so forth. In a very wonderful tent, air-conditioned tent, that kind of a thing. I said, I wonder the much that this madam will come to bury was taken care of when she was alive.
You lose a soul and you spend everything you have in the house. It's better they do it as it was in the olden days.
In some cases, the corpse of the deceased is kept in the morgue for several months simply because the children and relations of the deceased want to raise money before fixing the burial date to be able to give the departed a befitting burial.
At times, because of preparation to make such burial very expensive, people used to leave the dead to remain in the mortuaries for 6 months and years to get prepared. At times, some people may like to build a house for the dead who has no house. All these things cost very much expenses in Igbo land.
In my place, there's people they call Odinozu. They are all just out there to scavenge, pull families down, subject maybe the widow and children into sufferings. And you ask question, assuming the man in question, assuming it's a man and he was sick, how much of the help did they get from the immediate family? You find out nothing. I said to people who don't understand what they're doing, there will be no barrier that will be greater than the other. And there will be no one that will be worse, or how will I describe this? Being one that will be very economical than the other. No matter how much you spend in burying the dead, others must have done more than that. Or others will eventually do more than what they have done. And no matter how low and cheap your burial is, others may have been cheaper, or others will be cheaper in the future. So why trying to create an affluence, unnecessary affluence, that does not make any useful impact on even you that is doing it, your family, and the society?
It is the opinion of respondents that extravagant burial is a waste of money and that more emphasis should be on caring for the living.
Thank you, NTA Aba. We listen and we learn. There's hardly anything that should cause us to inconvenience people as well as ourselves, you know, the way things are now. That's why we often say, cut your coat according to your cloth. And it fits every facet of our society and our life and living at this time. Yes, we love somebody who has departed. Let us do what is right, but do it within our means. There's always a way when there is a will. We are talking at this time with Honorable Rosemary Oshikoya. Good morning, madam. Great to have you on our program.
Good morning.
When we say honorable, are we talking about the House of Assembly, state or federal?
Well, the title honorable is in Nigeria associated with certain position. I was a commissioner at the state level, so by that you acquire that title. But again, if you look at who is a honorable person, usually that again stems from the domain of what is moral, what is not, what is good and what is right. So you find that a system of practice where you begin to say people consistently do what is right, what is of good character, of what is supposed to be standard behavior, of what is acceptable in terms of moral code, then you would now say the person has behaved in a manner that depicts honor. And then you would say the person is honorable. So yes, it could be honorable in terms of a title, but it actually stems from the fact that you expect people at certain level to have a code of conduct that exemplifies what stems from acceptable beliefs, acceptable practices. And but then, does it really remain at the level of value in terms of position, or is it in terms of character? A whole lot of all that. So,
but that's where you would tell us now, because we're discussing the basement of values, and like I tell myself, the matter for discourse is because of what we find in many parts of our country, irrespective of tribe, gender, or creed. Some things are happening that perhaps are quite surprising and unexpected. We are asking ourselves, how did we get to where we are now? Is it that we did not have honorable mentors, honorable role models, an honorable foundation, or these honorable values were not instilled in us when we were young?
I think we should start from, like you said, we'll start from the beginning. I'm in my 40s, my mid-40s. And this world I grew up in is a lot different from the world I see today. And so I asked, what did our one generation do that another generation did not do? So possibly we should go back to the very beginning. In 1979, Nigeria has a new constitution, the presidential system of government. And in 1981, Nigeria came up with the philosophy of education. And a philosophy of education sets for you a standard you want to attain that guides all your action and other ones. So when we are talking about progressively raising one better generation over the other, it starts with what do we want to see and what have we subscribed to, because a value system tells you a system of beliefs of what is acceptable, what is not. Let's set up a system of rules and do's and don'ts that agree to be that. The second thing would have been, have we taught this to every successive generation over time? If they have not, then maybe somewhere we forgot what it is. So if you ask me, the standard and the core values, which should have been character development. At one point, if we stay away from what that should be, then we move away from the domain of what is supposed to be the proper one. So how did we get here? At what point do our school system, because the current arguments we're saying, and I would like to differ a bit from some school of thought I have heard. The debasement of our values, is it just what you attain through formal schooling? Like I've heard one or two other persons argue. Who is the primary agent of socialization? It starts from the home, right? The child is raised, is nurtured. The core expectation of what the society wants and do not want stems from the home. And so at one point, but then let's shift again, like the social media, I'm happy this is the era of globalization. Between religious and not religious, because a lot of people think that values and norms are something, morality are within the domain of your Muslim and Christian.
Let me ask you, based on what you have said, because let us take it, slice it one by one, so that those who may be doing something that have contributed to the debasement may understand. We will come to continue with a bit to breaking it down, to make it lighter, so people will take the one that is meant for them. But let's go to Kano first. They've been doing some research based on this topic we are discussing, the basement of our values. Let's see what they are thrusting up.
In all societies, individuals differ in all respects. Some are higher than others, even by virtue of material possessions. Some are in possession of huge wealth, while others struggle and scrap to make ends meet. Struggle is a condition, but not the last thing to guarantee wealth possession. Such is part of the inevitabilities of fate.
Economically, only limited opportunities are out there for men. Again, significant percent of Nigeria's population could not have access to resources because very few elites are there controlling, monopolizing, at the same time distributing these resources, which invariably put so much pressure on the larger chunk of Nigeria's population.
It is to the secret of peaceful living to create atmosphere where average low-income earners survive with ease.
There is a commission of zakat and waqf. So this zakat and waqf, the role of that zakat and waqf, it encourage people, the citizens, to come and give their assistance so that they will go and find the needy who are in need of this money to share to them.
Today, a lot of people suffer pressure of struggling to survive. Some are not assured of their next meal. In our society, lower income category need just little to get along with their lives. As it is, a lot have not been able to make it, in the sense that even the fundamental basic requirements of life they could not afford.
Many instances in this country, most of these rich people that we are seeing and displaying this affluence uncontrollably, you will simply say they acquire the wealth also unjustifiably. So that's explain why they don't have the reason, they don't have that personal, emotional reason and psychological awareness for them to say, okay, I have painstakingly acquired this wealth, then I shouldn't spend it in an extravagant way.
People frown at the attitude of some rich persons among whose culture of assisting the needy is not encouraging.
Even in the religion, if God has already given you something that you can take care of yourself, take care of your family, you overpower all the problems that come over you. A religion allows you to assist the people around you.
They are afraid as well. So if they spend the money today, what will they get tomorrow? How would they survive with their children tomorrow?
People are helping. Maybe we are not seeing the results because, yes, people are too many here. They are much.
I had been in Malaysia and I see how the institutions are working.
If someone wants to contribute something to the society, or if he wants to help the needy, there are some certain institutions that normally collect that assistance. And of course, they use it judiciously and distribute to those who are in need of it.
It is not easy to tell anyone how to live his life, but it is fundamental if form of assistance from the rich to the poor increases.
And if the rich people can actually come up to be assisting the people, the masses, those who are lower than them, in respect of financially, definitely things will go fine. When you look at the insecurity aspect of it, actually the issue of not assisting the masses in both.
The fundamental point is this: if you are rich, no matter how you acquire the riches, you are expected to support the weak. Of course, anywhere in the world, the rich are few and the poor are the large chunk of the population. So what we expected from the rich is for them to provide or lay down certain indices or parameters or mechanisms through which they provide support to the needy.
The only thing is that at least it should start from our religious leaders, those in authority. Those in authority, the religious leader, and even the parent as well. People should sit up and be held to their responsibilities.
Rich people that they are fortunate to pay zakat, when they are paying this zakat, they should give this zakat in a way that the person they give this year will be expected to give his own zakat in the next coming 2 or 3 years. Not the way they are doing now. Maybe they give 5,000 or 10,000 naira. No.
I'm just talking with my guest here, Honorable Rosemary, that many adults know right from wrong. My opinion is that it's a conscious decision you make on the daily. Am I going to do what is right and sacrifice? Because doing the right thing calls for national patriotism and sacrifice. It's your choice. Or do I want to keep doing it this way because it's easy and it's the road often traveled? Honorable Rosemary, in your summation, tell us, we've identified so many areas where unlearning needs to be done with immediate effect.
We are suffering under what is the debasement of our values as a nation. We have paid too much lip services to saying it doesn't matter who stands in front of you, whether the person is right or wrong. We have pretended that family units do no longer have to do what they are. Most importantly, we incentivize bad behaviors by not punishing wrongdoing. We need to go back to that concept of morality, checking ourselves and measuring ourselves against certain standards and seeing, rather than, you see, every Nigeria particularly would want to tell you, we are doing well, we are not so bad, but we no longer measure ourselves against standards that are there. It's not enough to occupy an office. You must discharge the function of that office, and you must be the right person to become who you should be at all levels of the society, whatever our positions we hold.
Thank you very much, Honorable Rosemary Ojo Chenemi Oshikoya, a two-time commissioner in Kogi State. It was great learning from you. Nigerians, you are listening from all parts of the world and also in our country here. Let us begin to work together. Indifference is no longer an excuse. It's not pardonable. It's all hands on deck, progressively spearheading our great country. We've talked about the basement of the value system in Nigeria for 2 days. It's not one action, it's not one individual, it's a collective action that has happened over time that has brought us to where we are today. So we must all work together now to take us out of where we are, to build a better, stronger, viral, progressive, and prosperous nation called Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. Have a great week. Bye-bye.